Hello and happy Forestry Friday, everyone. My name is Beth Hill and I'm the Outreach and Education Manager for the North Dakota Forest Service. Throughout the Forestry Friday series so far, you've learned a lot about the do's and don'ts of growing trees in North Dakota. And as we've learned and discussed, there are many challenges for our trees here. So when we do have trees that thrive, it's important to celebrate them. We do that through the North Dakota Champion Tree Program. The NDSU North Dakota Forest Service maintains the records for the Champion Tree Program. The ND Register of Champion Trees contains the champion trees and first runner-ups. Nominations for the largest tree of each species and genus using a point system are accepted throughout the year and are due no later than December 31st at the state headquarters. The register is updated with the new champions and released shortly after the new year. I will give you a little background on this program. Back on May 4th, 1984, the North Dakota Society of American Foresters and the North Dakota Tree Farm Committee began a public contest on Arbor Day, which is annually celebrated the first Friday of May in North Dakota, to find the largest of each native tree species in the state. It was modeled after the National Register of Big Trees run by American Forests. In 1986, when North Dakota's state centennial emphasis on planting 100 million trees was initiated, the North Dakota Forest Service and Centennial Trees Commission joined as sponsors. The ND Champion Tree Register was renamed and expanded to include the first and second native and naturalized non-native trees. The Champion Trees program started out as a competition, a national hunt to discover the largest living specimens of select tree species. Today, this citizen science initiative helps to engage the public in forestry activities. This fosters an interest in wildlife, brings attention to biodiversity and biodiversity loss, increases the public awareness of ecosystem services that big trees provide, and instills a desire to protect and preserve these magnificent trees for future generations. So, common questions that we get: what is an eligible tree? It would be helpful to first define what a tree is. For our purposes, a tree is any plant that has achieved one erect perennial woody stem or trunk at least 3 inches in diameter at 4.5 feet above the ground. It must have a definitively formed crown of foliage and a height of at least 13 feet. A tree is eligible as long as it is rooted and in relatively good health. Measurements for height and average crown spread incorporate all parts of the tree, dead or alive. To be a champion tree, a tree must meet these minimum requirements. Now, what's the difference between native and naturalized non-native? Native tree species are wild and grew naturally in the undisturbed environment before the arrival of Europeans. A naturalized non-native tree is an introduced species that has become established and is reproducing on its own in wildland settings. Native and common non-native trees growing in North Dakota are acceptable. Only major species are accepted. Cultivars, named varieties, ornamentals, and unclassified varieties are excluded. Here is our list of native species that we recognize in North Dakota. Many of these species should be household names for anyone familiar with forestry efforts in North Dakota. Our state tree, the American elm, is featured here, as well as chokecherry, which grows our state fruit. And here is our list of naturalized non-native species that we recognize in our Champion Tree Register in North Dakota. As you can see, this list is a lot longer. Another question that we get is how long a champion tree stays in the register. A tree stays in the register until it is 1, dethroned by a larger tree, 2, dies, or 3, is removed. When 2 trees have scores that fall within 5 points of each other, they may be listed as co-champions. Trees should be remeasured every 5 years. Can you visit the champion trees? This answer is yes. The champion trees located on public land can be visited with no problem. If a tree is located on private land, however, we ask that you respect the private landowner and ask permission before making a visit. Our register historically has been available in a PDF format with a listing of all champion trees and runner-ups on our website. In 2020, our Forest Health intern, Michael Steen, created this excellent story map of North Dakota's champion trees that you can visit at this link at the top. I will also link this in the description, and it can be found on our North Dakota Forest Service website as well. This register featured in the story map is accurate as of 2018. I hope to release future year's registers in a more accessible format available on our website. One question we always get is, what is North Dakota's largest tree? And that would be a cottonwood in Steele County. This tree has a girth of 360 inches, so about 30 feet, 105 feet tall, and an average crown spread of 92 feet, earning it a points total of 488. Similarly, we often get asked, what is the largest tree in America? This would be the giant sequoia of Tulare, California. This tree made its debut on the National Register of Champion Trees in 2019. It is the largest known tree of its species in the country as reported by American Forests. This tree is recognized not only for its size, but also the critical ecosystem services that it provides, such as food and shelter for wildlife, its water purification abilities, and its role in absorbing CO2 from our atmosphere and storing carbon in its wood. This tree, dubbed General Sherman, was first nominated in 1940 and last measured in 2019. At that time, its circumference measured 1,231 inches, a height of 275 feet, and an average crown spread of 107 feet, thus earning it a point value total of 1,533. In comparison, that is a circumference about 3.5 times as large as our champion cottonwood and more than double in height. So in learning about our Champion Trees program today, do you have a tree that comes to mind that you think could be considered as a champion? If so, please submit your nomination form and a photo of the tree to my email address listed here, beth.hill@ndsu.edu, or by mailing address listed on the nomination form. That form can be found by following this link, which is found on our North Dakota Forest Service website. When on our main page, click the About ND Forestry on the left-hand side, and then click Champion Trees of North Dakota. In that nomination form, you will see that you will need to measure your tree to have it considered be a champion. Our champion trees are based on a point system set in place by the National Register of Champion Trees. Essentially, our formula is the sum of the circumference in inches, the height in feet, and 1/4 times the average crown spread in feet. For specific guidelines for measuring trees, please visit the link here. I'll go into a quick example on how to take each measurement. Circumference is the measurement around the trunk of the tree and is taken at what is termed diameter at breast height, or DBH. This is a universal measurement for foresters. Now, everyone's breast height is not the same. For example, for me at 5'2", this is about the bottom of my nose, so definitely not the middle of my chest. So we take DBH at a height of 4.5 feet from the ground. There are special rules if we're dealing with a tree that is on a slope or other complications, but for most trees you find, you'll take the circumference measurement at DBH. Now, if you've seen trees in North Dakota, you know they come in all shapes and sizes and formations, so there are a few clarifications. When the trunk is leaning, wrap the tape at 90 degrees to the axis of the lean instead of parallel to the ground. If it branches below 4.5 feet, measure the largest fork above the branching. If there is a fork at DBH, measure the smallest circumference below the fork, as you can see demonstrated here on the left. If it forks above 4.5 feet, then take the measurement at 4.5 feet. If you have questions, refer to the measurement guidelines document on the American Forest website I mentioned earlier. Sometimes we see a tree like this one shown here. At first glance, that's a huge circumference at DBH, so it would set up to gain some serious points towards being a champion tree. In these cases, we have to look and determine if this is one tree that is split into codominant leaders, or if this appears to be separate trees that have grown together over time. In this case, we use what is called the pith test. We follow the central pith lines down the trunk. If the pith lines intersect above the ground level, we have one tree. If the pith lines at ground level are separated, we have more than one tree. This elm was determined to be 2 stems that have grown together. That would mean we would take the widest circumference of the larger trunk. So height is another measurement you'll have to take. This is measured in feet from the base to the topmost twig of the tree. There are a few different methods for measuring tree height. I'll go into one where you will just need one piece of equipment, a yardstick. First, put a marker on the tree at a chosen height above the ground. A 4 or 5 foot height choice is common. You can use the yardstick to get this distance. Call this height F. Move back until an inch on the yardstick just covers F. Keeping the yardstick in place, sight up the yardstick to the top of the tree. You must be back far enough so that the top of the yardstick covers the top of the tree. Read the points on the yardstick corresponding to the top of the tree and the top of your hand. The top of the tree will usually fall within an inch marking. Estimate how much of the inch covers the tip of the tree, expressed as a fraction or decimal. You now may have the readings corresponding to the top of the tree and the top of your hand. Subtract the second reading from the first to get the number of inches that matches the whole tree. Then multiply this number of inches by the factor of F to get the height of the tree. The crown spread is the last measurement you will need. Crown spread should be measured in 2 directions perpendicular to each other at the widest point and the narrowest point on the crown. The average of the 2 measurements is taken as the average crown spread. So this would be measurement A plus measurement B, and then divide that number by 2. Pictured here are a number of trees that were submitted in the past year that have earned themselves either the titles of champion or runner-up in North Dakota. As of 2021, our most recent register does not have species like the chokecherry or Russian olive, and many of these current champions need to be remeasured, which is something our agency seeks to do. Our biggest help are all of you listening. You are the ones on the ground every day across the state, and you can help us find our state's biggest trees. So I will give you a quick tour of the story map that I mentioned that our forest health intern created. You can see it here at that link, and I'll reference that in the description again. Our North Dakota champion trees, it's important to note that this story map features the ones on public property, so you'll be able to go and visit these no problem. We scroll down, you'll see information about the program that I referenced in this presentation earlier. There is a link on how to nominate the champion tree, our entire register. And if you continue scrolling, you will see each species featured with the common name and the Latin name. You'll have information on the date measured, the circumference, the height, crown spread, total points that it was awarded, the location of the tree, the owner of the tree, and the nominator of the tree. So if you do end up nominating a tree and it is crowned a champion, you'll be featured in our register as well. So that's pretty exciting. We also have a picture of each species and then a picture of the leaf to better identify it. You can see here in the top left, we have a map on where to find these trees. If we scroll out here, we do have champion trees all over the entire state. So it's not just in the east, it's not just in the west, it's all over. All right, that is all that I have for you. For more information on trees or forest management in North Dakota, feel free to reach out to us through our website or our Facebook page. And as always, you can find all of our videos for Forestry Fridays on our YouTube channel, so please check those out. Thanks so much.